Welcome to Tag Talks Happy Hour with Ajit Kara. One part small talk, all parts real talk. This is the part of the day when Ajit gets to know the people behind the job titles at Tag.
Hello, my name is Ajit Kara and I'm the CEO of Tag Americas, and welcome to my podcast series. I decided to do this podcast series because, as many of you know, I believe that Tag's biggest asset is its people. And I did that to try and understand what makes our folks tick. Today, I'm very blessed that we have one of our strategic partners. They're also our biggest asset. And I have Brett Russo, who's joined us today from one of our suppliers. And I'm looking forward to spending some time with her. She's the CEO of Capital Printing. But as always, these podcasts are produced by Kaylie Stansfield. Hey, Kaylie, how are you?
I'm well, Ajit. How are you today?
I'm particularly well.
Oh, particularly?
Particularly well.
What's particular about it?
Well, it's a beautiful September day. I walked to the office and it was just that nice temperature. It's not too hot, not too warm, nice sun. Perfect it was.
Very nice.
And how are you? What's going on with you?
Well, same, I guess, enjoying the weather. And I'm super excited about today's guest because I think this is the first time we've had a published author in the studio. Wow. So who knows what that might mean for the conversation. I'm excited.
Let's get our wonderful guest. Brett, have I said that? Brett?
Yes, Brett.
Brett, welcome. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.
You looked a little bit surprised when I asked you to have a glass of wine at 11 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, I didn't deny it, though. Notice.
Was it okay? Do you like it?
Very good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for making the effort, and thank you for my gift. So I'll get straight into it. You've given me a book that you've written, but I'll come back to the content of the book. But thank you. It's a gorgeous book. The Underwear in My Shoe. Fantastic, actually. I'm looking forward to describing that. But tell me a bit more. So you are a CEO of a capital printing company. That's wonderful. CEO of a diverse business. Well, not diverse, but as a CEO of a minority-owned business.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Diverse is right. You were right.
Diverse is right, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did you get into that?
So Capital Printing is a family company.
Right.
My father started it from scratch. He was literally a pressman. First, he was sweeping floors. Then he became a pressman and went off on his own. And Capital Printing started. And I got into the business about 21 years ago. And just trying to do him proud. You know, he retired. He's passed since then, but things are going great. It's great to kind of keep his legend alive.
Well, look, I know that's I know father figures are important, and my father also had a business, and I learned so much by being in the business as a young boy. I think that's probably similar to you. I think if I have any skills, it really came from, doing everything in a small business, and that is everything. And he must have taught you well.
Absolutely. I mean, when I first started, I wasn't expecting to go into the business.
Yeah.
I had some interviews lined up, and I said, Dad, I'll come with you and kind of mirror you for the summer. And he was the quintessential salesman, and I would just follow him around. And what I learned in that time, I never even went to my interviews. I mean, I was just intrigued with his passion for people. And I mean, he never even talked about business. He just made people feel good, and he did right by people and was genuine and real. And I've learned so much in that time, and it inspired me. I mean, to this day, I want to be like him.
It's entrepreneurial. That's what it means. And I noticed, because I wonder if it's the same, I have a ring, my dad's ring around my necklace, and so I keep him close to me. I noticed you've got a similar band. Is that something to do with your dad, or is it just a ring?
This is just a necklace, but this ring I have, which I don't know if this is depressing. I don't want to bring us down. We just came up. I don't want to bring us down, but I do have a ring that he passed through.
Yeah.
He actually got COVID, and this was recent. That's okay. And I have a little bit of his ash in a ring that I made, so he's always with me. Some people get grossed out. Other people think it's a beautiful thing, but sometimes it's nice to put your finger on it and say, you know what? He's with me. I can handle this.
Well, I got it wrong, but I think it's right. Like he's clearly a big influence. I'm sure he's incredibly proud of what you've achieved. But like me, I keep him close to me, and some people think it's morbid that I'm wearing his ring around my neck. But I think it's very comforting. So I'm sure he taught you well. And then tell me a bit more about you before we come back to the business. Brothers, sisters?
I have a twin brother who's in the business with me.
Oh, okay.
He deals with the
It
operational
is a family
side of
business.
Oh yeah, we good, bad, and ugly. We're in each other's business constantly. We always have this joke. We give each other one question. You can walk in and say, "How are you?" But you can't say, "Well, why?" or "Where were you?" But why? That's the rule. And then I have an older brother who's a doctor. He lives out in Pennsylvania, and he was the brains of the bunch. So.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Yeah. And you are married with children?
I'm married with children. I have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Wonderful. And that's actually what inspired you for the book, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Tell me a bit more about that and tell me about the book.
So we went through IVF to have our children, and that was a really big challenge in my life. I'm a very positive person, but that one knocked me on my back. And I felt by writing it down, and it was therapy for myself, but I knew that maybe someday it could help someone else. And that was the inspiration behind the book. So that's how I got my 2 children. It was quite a battle. You learn a lot about yourself and about life when you go through something like that. But
I know a few people that have gone through. It's not an easy process by a long way, and it's incredibly draining on the body. And if what women go through, having been through the birth of my 2 children, see what my wife went through. What women go through to give life is astonishing. And then it's another layer of what you go through to create the life in the first place. It's just astonishing what you do to your body.
It's crazy.
What's the foundation of the book? Is it the journey to go through that? Or what made you want to write the book?
So the book is really, when I was going through it, I felt really alone. And I felt that even, I have a great network of family and friends, but no one really knew about infertility, nor did I. And I felt very lost through the process. And basically, the whole spirit of the book was to write down my experience raw. I don't leave anything out. The emotional aspect of it, the physical aspect of it, because it's a really, really hard thing to go through. And emotionally, as a female, you go through things like, I'm a failure, it's not working, everyone else is pregnant. There's a lot of layers to what you go through, and it's really tough. And the spirit of writing it was just that someone else going through it could read this and say, okay, I'm supposed to feel this way. It's okay to feel depressed. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be mad that I have to go to this baby shower and I don't want to. And, all those things that go through it. And it's been a pretty fulfilling experience because, my goal of the book was to have it go through the hands of women going through it. And that's exactly what's happening. It's great.
It's much wider spread than folks think. I'm sure it's done very well. And the underwear in my shoe is what it's called. So I'm looking forward to reading that. I will pass it on to my family as well. So thank you.
Maybe your wife may enjoy it.
Yeah.
What kind of feedback have you received from people who have read it?
The feedback's been great, actually. It's kind of got legs right now, which is nice. Most people that have been through it and read it say, thank you so much. You put into words what I've been feeling. It's the first time I feel heard, that kind of thing. And, I feel not alone and thank you. And they'll tell me their stories. And it's just, I think
that's a big one, isn't it? It's about, I think this applies to many other emotional positions that people or challenges that they go through. They think you think you're the only one. You're on your own. You're suffering. It's only you. And I think that's actually quite valid. That it's a great opportunity because it's very specific, and people might think that it's just them, but it's not.
Oh yeah, and I do believe that the time of people being perfect for each other is over. I hope, because you have all this social media where you're supposed to be perfect, and you have your kids next to a barn and they're taking pictures and it's beautiful, but. Sometimes the most real moments are when you can bond in your weakest moments. And it doesn't matter what your thing is, whether it's IVF, whether it's you got fired, you lost your father, whatever it is, it's really important to be real with people and to understand that, maybe they woke up with something that you don't know about, but it doesn't mean you can't be there. It's okay to, bond in these weak moments.
I was told yesterday by someone, it's really good advice, live in the present. And it's harder than you think to do. But, it's great to know that you're not on your own. So I guess you did it really to help other folks.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And how did you begin to write a book? I know you wrote all the notes down. Did you have a ghost author or did you write it all yourself?
I wrote it all myself. I think it started as journal entries when I was going through it myself. And then when things got a little dark, I took a little break, but I kept adding to an outline. I had gotten some advice from an author I knew, and she said just even when you're having writing blocks, just add to your outline, and it will keep you focused. And if if experience happens, a story happens, you can add it to your outline, and then you could slowly just make your way down. And when you have those inspirations, write it. And I enjoyed it. I mean, I really enjoyed writing it. I think it kind of let the bad news, anything bad that happened during my process, all right, well, at least I have another chapter. At least I ended up with a real story to tell. I didn't think that was going to be the case in the beginning.
And excuse my ignorance, so you got 2 children in different periods. So normally with IVF, you can get more at the same time, i.e. more children. Did you have to go for it twice then?
So basically what happens is they retrieve eggs, they fertilize the eggs, and then they go for genetic testing. Once they're genetically tested correct, they'll be they're good. Then they freeze them. I ended up with 2 embryos, and they became both my children. So, and that, spoiler alert. But so that was on my 5th round. So luckily I had 2, and they did become babies, which is a miracle.
It does actually. When you think about the technology, the process, it's astonishing.
It's astonishing. I mean, what they can do is unbelievable. I mean, it really is. And it gives people a lot of, I wouldn't have maybe had children if that wasn't the case. So it's a beautiful thing.
Well, and I bet you look at your children every day and think, wow.
It definitely puts things into perspectives. I mean, there was a lot of late nights where I'm up with my kids. I'm like, it's all right. You go through this, you're like, how is there even humans on the earth? That's how crazy it is.
How did you mix, going through that, being a mum now, and being a CEO? How do you juggle that? I mean, I appreciate it's a family business, but it's just as demanding as if it wasn't.
It's tough. I will say this. It's very tough. That's been probably the biggest challenge is the mother business kind of, because had kids when I was 38. So I spent, how many years, 20 years in the business without having to get home early for a child or whatever. And so I kind of built the spirit of how I manage, how I am with my clients. I'm just always available and always there and always pick up the phone and I'll run this here. And that was just the way I did things. Even with my team, that's how I managed. And that's been hard because sometimes you just can't. The kids have, you're the mother. The kids have to go to school. They have to go to a doctor's appointment. There's a play. There's, all these things. So the guilt takes over sometimes and it's tough. But I think if you could just be genuine with people and say how it is. I mean, most people that I work with are parents and they understand, they've been there. And, but it is hard. It is hard.
The reason
You're
I asked,
split in half.
Yeah, no, I asked that question because we have a lot of fantastic, working mums in TAG. Mm-hmm. And I'm always conscious of that we, how can we make the workplace, because they're awesome in terms of the contribution that they make. And, I'm so pleased that in today's work, it's not the stigma attached to it that it was some time ago. And, but I always think, and Kaylie knows this, how can we make our environment just a little bit more supportive for folks going, because it is tough. There's no doubt about it. Us blokes have it easy when we don't have to worry about these sort of things.
Well, I'm glad that you have that outlook on it because, I always say by the time I get to work, which now is like 9:30, 10, which is crazy because I used to be the first one there. You feel like you're walking in and people think, oh, she's late, she's whatever. What happened between 5:30 a.m. and that 10 o'clock is like the whole world happened before I sat at that desk, And
but I think the reason I support that in our company is because the passion and the productivity and the commitment you get from these super mums, as I call them, from 9:30 onwards, is probably better than you get if someone had come in at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's just they're full on.
I do agree with that. Your time is your most precious, thing that you have. So every single thing that you do is condensed, right? So you get in, you're like, all right, let's go. What do we got to do? What do we got to do?
So back to the business, because I'm also sure that lots of people want to know is, what made you? I know your father was a big part of this, but what made you? We don't have enough female entrepreneurial leaders of business. What made you decide to go and do that versus the interviews versus, what made you want to run the business?
I'll say this, there's 2 aspects of it. One, I started to sell and I loved it. And I tell a lot of people this, it's not necessarily what you're selling. If you love sales, go into sales. Sometimes the variables that people get hung up on don't really matter. I loved connecting with people. I love connecting with clients. I loved that part of it. But on the other side, you would go back to the plant and you'd walk around and you'd realize how many families are benefiting from you going out and, busting your ass and getting that sale, and how many families are like I'd get a new account and it'd go in the back and people are like so excited to see a new client or, something going on like that. Because, that's everyone's livelihood. And I think when you're all, my dad always said, whoever's under your umbrella, that's you protect whoever's under your umbrella.
I suspect you do quite a lot for your employees. Like, is there a lot of long-serving employees? You take the family seriously.
Oh, very much so. I mean, nobody leaves Capital. It's a very big family company. People have been there. I mean, I think the median year is like 16, 17 years.
Yeah. Well, we know that because we obviously validate our partners, strongly, and you're a strong partner to us, and we know how well you look after your folks. But how have you navigated? I know you run the business with your brother. How have you navigated the fact that for someone that, as you may remember if you've seen some of my podcasts, I actually did kind of grow up in the printing industry myself. I regrettably know way too much about printing. And, when I had my own company, we had, printing presses, etc. But I got out of that and sold the company because I saw the future around, being a manufacturer is very tough because technology is moving very quickly. Markets are moving, digital is coming strongly. How have you managed to navigate in the last 20 years everything, which is, the industry's changing, pulp prices are moving all over the place, substrates, recyclability, your investment schemes. How are you managing to navigate that? Because that's quite a lot to do.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be willing to constantly change,
Yeah.
Obviously. You can't just sit still. I mean, that's the main thing. And I think you just have to kind of roll with the times. I mean, if you see technology going in this direction, you have to be financially sound. You have to be smart and have the ability at the drop of a hat to say, okay, let's invest in this. Let's, and obviously, that takes a lot. I'll give that to my brother because he runs a very efficient shop. But it's really important to just do your research and know what's out there and know what your clients want. And you can't have a lot of rules. Like, don't have rules. Just say yes. What do your clients need? Just say yes. Let's roll with it. I think people get stuck in what they've always done and it works. But, the buyers, the way their attitudes are changing, it's not like it used to be. Every 5 years, my dad always said, if every 5 years, you're going to lose your biggest client. So you have to reevaluate what you're doing internally. And now, I mean, technology literally yearly changes.
Yeah, it does.
And you have to just be willing to say yes and just roll with it, I think.
I know you take customer service very seriously. What's the most extreme customer service thing that you've had to do to satisfy a client? One
time earlier in my career, very early, maybe a year or two in, we had this tough client. They were really...
It wasn't Tag, was it?
It was not Tag. I don't think you were there yet. But... and something happened where there was some meeting in Vegas and they had to send a package that never got there. And so my father literally got me on a plane, says, you have to go to Vegas with this package. And literally I had 2 full suitcases of 3,000 brochures. I literally went to the airport and hand delivered these brochures because this client was said, if these brochures aren't there.
And spookily, you stayed there for 3 days to make sure the brochures were fine.
I mean, yeah, I had to make sure, you can
Quality control.
Customer service. I mean, but that was exciting. And that's the way he was. I mean, anything for the client. Like, let's just do crazy things.
Oh, that's amazing.
Just don't say no.
What do you like to do in your spare time? Apart from looking after the children, running the business, looking after your husband, no doubt. What apart from all of that?
I still have a life. Yeah. I don't know. I got 2 toddlers. They pretty much
write a book.
I made it here without any food on me, so that's a mom goal. I used to sing. I love to sing.
Really?
Yeah. I used to, when I was in my 20s, I used to sing the anthem for local stadiums.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy. And my family's like, do you know another song, right?
I'm going to ask you now.
Yeah.
Do some a cappella. Can you sing anything for me?
A few bars.
Really?
Something.
Yeah.
What do I sing?
Yeah.
Give us the anthem. First few bars.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light
That's amazing.
Shake it.
I can almost.
Fantastic.
I can imagine
Is that
you.
cheesy?
I can imagine on the field that getting people going. You got a great voice.
Oh, thank you.
Did you want to take that more seriously?
When I was in my early 20s, I was passionate about singing, and I definitely thought that's what I wanted to do. And, I would go on auditions and do all the singing things. And it's funny how in life sometimes when things don't work out, it's probably the best thing because so many other things happen that now I know wholeheartedly that I was not supposed to be a singer. And I'm so happy even with the book and with the business. I mean, that's where my passion really is. But when you're going through it, you're like, oh, I didn't get accepted to this. And it feels, you get down on yourself. But sometimes the biggest no's in your life are the best things that could have happened to you.
It's destiny, isn't it, sometimes?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think if some of those were yeses, I don't know. And I think awareness, as I went through the process, you realize what your strengths are that separate you from the crowd. And sometimes it's not what you think. I think at the end of the day, when I was going through these auditions, I was pretty average compared to a lot of these people. And that was okay for me. That was just a realization that, okay, it wasn't that I was giving up. It was just my passion, even with sales. I loved being in the business. Once I started, it just didn't stop. And I really, was hungry.
Well, there is something about, and by the way, you don't sound average to me, but there is something around sales that's incredibly intoxicating. Because it's not just about, some people's view of sales is you're just a salesperson, but it's not. Sales is really when you connect what a customer wants with what you can produce or buy. And when you get it right is when everyone is happy. And there's an amazing feeling when you drive growth and you drive something going forward. Is that what makes it tick for you?
Absolutely. When you go on a sales call and you feel like you connected with someone and it worked. I remember I'll call my brother. I used to call my dad immediately. We nailed that. It felt so good. And I think it's just connecting with people. I think the key to sales is not pretending. Actually care about what you're doing. Care about the people.
People can tell immediately if you're insincere. I think they really can.
Yeah. So it's important.
So wonderful conversation, and I think because you are very special, we have people. We told people that you were coming in, and a few folks had a question for you. So if you don't mind, I have a question. This question comes from Amy, from which I think from our Canada business. And she says, as a woman CEO in the dynamic print industry and the mother of young children, what advice would you have given to your younger self facing the challenges that you have today?
I think the advice I would give myself is work. I think the one thing that's carried me through this time, I always I feel that your clients, the people that work for you, they're kind to you because you've had this backtrack of who you are already. And I think what I would tell my younger self is treat people with respect always, everyone.
Yeah.
And work hard while you can. Give the time while you can. I know that everything's every stage of your life is different. When you're with family, your priority is your family. When you're, in the, your early 20s and you're in sales, obviously it's all about the sales. But I think if you're genuine with people and real with people, that will carry you through your whole career, because a sale is a sale. You're always going to lose a client. You're always going to, lose, your biggest client, whatever. But if you can connect with the people, I have people that I connected with in my early 20s that I'm still doing business with. And it doesn't mean I've been doing business with them for 20 years straight. It just means that it comes in and out. And I think that when you can respect people and don't make enemies, there's no excuse to make an enemy. And even if the worst thing happens in business, you could get through it.
Yeah.
Don't make enemies, and work hard. It will carry you through those times where I need a little time. I have to go home to see my kids. I have to, go to that play or pick them up from school or they're sick. I've worked hard for 20 years. I have those relationships in place already, and it carries you through that time. So, be real. Don't lie. Don't take the sick day. Just work hard. Sometimes I don't know if that's the trend anymore, but it's important to put the time in when you can, Be a go-getter, be hungry. That's who's you want to impress the CEO. You want to impress, have balls. Just do it. You know what I mean? Just do things that, don't hold back.
Good
Just
advice.
step forward.
Now, this is the part where you have the opportunity to ask me any question that you have, if you have one.
Okay. Well, I will say this. Aside from the success of the business,
Yeah.
what is your ultimate goal you're in a leadership position. You're going to have people looking up to you. What's your ultimate goal? The day you retire, what do you want your workers to say about you?
That's an interesting question. I think, for me, I'd love there to be a great legacy. A legacy defined by the following. We have fantastic people that have risen and growing and want to do some of the things that you said, which is that they're engaged, they're passionate, they're in belief, and that we have clients that love what we do, and very much like your own business model, that they stay for year over year over year. So for me, quietly disappearing, seeing things continue well and grow would be the ultimate thing that I'd love to see. But quietly disappearing is how I'd like to go.
I have to tell you a story with regards to that. So my father, who I'm sorry, I'm talking about him so much.
No, yes, fine.
He one day said, my brother and I were already there, solid, 15, 16 years or so. And one day he says, I'm going to go get coffee. Do you guys want anything? We're like, no, we're good. And that was it. He put his pen on the desk and he never walked back in the door. And he just basically retired, but didn't say he retired. And I remember asking him, and each week he'd be like, I'm going to come in next week. I'm going to come in. And he never really did. And he said, I felt confident in I finally felt like I could just walk away and everything. And that's exactly what you're saying is the best thing you can do as a leader is have your people do what you thought your vision was, and now it's their time.
I think your father did it better than me. Put the pen down, so I'm going for a cup of coffee. That's beautiful. But thank you so much for taking the time to do this podcast. And, for me, it's no coincidence that you run a successful business, that you've written a wonderful book that will inspire and help lots of other people. You have a fantastic company that I know many employees enjoy being there. Wonderful family. We as an organisation benefit from all the things that you do. So, please keep up the wonderful stuff that you're doing. And I look forward to seeing you on the Super Bowl singing the national anthem anytime soon. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Ben.
thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Join us soon for another episode of Tag Talks Happy Hour with Ajit Kara and learn more about the people behind the job titles at Tag.